and welcome to the weekend edition of The Buck Stops Here. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. On the show tonight, as the controversy over Penguin's withdrawal of Wendy Doniger's book, The Hindus and Alternative History, grows, we're asking, is the Indian law the true villain, as the author said in defense of her publishers? And is it time to reconsider laws that curb free speech? Days after Penguin publishers decided to pulp author Wendy Doniger's book, The Hindus and Alternative History, two authors, academic Jyotirmaya Sharma and journalist Siddharth Varadarajan, have lashed out at Penguin's capitulation, saying, end our contracts and pulp our books too. Some others have filed a counter-legal notice against the publishers, but perhaps most critically, some of the world's most eminent scholars and historians on India have petitioned our MPs and the Law Minister to revisit sections of the Indian Penal Code that they say are being willfully misused to intimidate authors and artists.
It's not that I'm happily and joyfully withdrawing my book and asking them to pulp it. To save the liberal space, the decision has to be taken.
What Penguin has done, I think, jeopardizes not just the right to free speech of Penguin's authors, but of authors, writers, journalists across India.
It makes, firstly, Penguin sit back and think that, hey, did we take the right decision? And when in future they face a similar kind of situation, perhaps they will act differently.
We asked tonight, is the Indian law the true villain, as Wendy Doniger said in defense of Penguin? And is it time to reconsider laws that curb free speech? Joining us tonight, Professor Partha Chatterjee, author and historian, one of the signatories to that petition that asks that sections 153A and 295A of the Indian Penal Code be reconsidered and revised. Soli Sorabji, former Attorney General of India, Siddharth Varadarajan, editor of Gujarat, The Making of a Tragedy, who's asked for that book to be pulped as a mark of protest against Penguin's decision. And Penguin, of course, did not respond to our request to join us on this panel tonight, but to give us the publisher's perspective, Pramod Kapoor, publisher Roli Books. Also joining us tonight, Rahul Ishwar, who's spokesperson for the Sabrimala Trust, but he also wants to be known as an activist for Hindu rights. Well, he in fact supports that decision to both bring the legal case against Penguin and Penguin's decision to withdraw that book. But let me begin tonight with Professor Partha Chatterjee. Professor Chatterjee, do you see the underlying problem for free speech in India, not just religious intolerance, but also our laws?
Yes, there is a problem with free speech. Let me just give you the contents of our petition, which we have circulated 3 days ago. The petition, one of the two first signatories to that petition were Professor Romila Thapar, the eminent historian of ancient India. We wanted Penguin to not withdraw the book and instead to carry through the lawsuits in court, if necessary, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the second demand we made was to appeal to lawmakers, jurists, legal scholars, and anyone interested in free speech and expression in this country to reconsider sections 153A and 295A of the Indian Penal Code. Now, 153A is the section that deals with promoting enmity between groups on grounds of religion, race, etc., and committing acts prejudicial to the maintenance of harmony, and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. Now, if you would give me time right now or later, I could explain to you why we have made these two demands.
But Soli Sorabji, do you believe that the laws of this country that govern freedom of expression, specifically the sections that have now been mentioned in this petition, section 295A and section 153A, do you believe that they are now perhaps being willfully misused to silence dissent, to silence inconvenient opinions?
Willfully misuse is another thing, but I may mention one thing, that 295A uses the word who insults religion with deliberate and malicious intention. And the Supreme Court was maintaining the constitutionality of this section, said every criticism of religion doesn't come under the section. So the courts have interpreted this section and the other sections, not in a very restrictive manner, but only to see whether actually, whether the whole effect and intent of the book is to have a ruffle religious or rather disturb religious sentiments of each community, or is a deliberate and malicious attack. I think in this case there was no such thing. And you haven't asked me the question, but I'm very sorry that Penguin didn't fight the case. Court has given relief. Court gave relief in the case of, what's that book written on Shivaji by Lane?
James Lane.
The courts for prosecution. The other cases, the courts have intervened. I thought Penguin should have really not caved in like that. Because my right as a citizen to receive information is also restricted, not only journalists and authors. I want to receive information. If any group thinks that information is wrong and the book is wrong, oh, very well. Hold the meeting, ban the book, write another book. But what is this banning business? That's absolutely obnoxious.
Siddharth, Varadarajan, let me come to you on this because, you clearly believe that Penguin can't abdicate its responsibility in the way that it did by talking about the law of the land and its moral obligation and so on. Do you believe that perhaps Wendy Doniger herself was somewhat too charitable to her publishers when she said it was the law that was the true villain?
Well, I don't blame her in the sense that, she's sitting in Chicago and she perhaps is not familiar with the way Indian courts have dealt with this in the past. But, Soli Sorabji is absolutely right that Indian courts, when presented with challenges of this kind, have almost invariably found on behalf of, they've come out with sensible orders to say that, the book, if it does not incite violence, if the intention is not to deliberately insult or humiliate somebody, it's fine, right? So I think Penguin should have fought this case. I am mystified as to why Penguin chose not to fight this case. And the reason put out in the statement by Penguin is something that my friend and colleague Jyotirmay Sharma and I found offensive when they said that this is we took this decision because of 295A and because of threats to our employees. And we said, look, there's the fact is that you should have challenged this, and you're making assumptions about the Indian courts that are completely unwarranted.
But you believe that they didn't have a point at all when it said when they said they had a moral responsibility towards their employees. The state really doesn't offer much protection when it
there's two things here,
comes
right?
to physical harm.
Of course, there's two things here. First of all, there's been no protest or agitation outside Penguin's office to my knowledge. Secondly, there are examples where agitation is present. Like recently we saw outside the Caravan office, right? Where RSS people didn't like the article that they ran on Asima Nand's allegations against Mohan Bhagwat. They staged a protest. They threw stones. And, it's the obligation of the state to protect somebody attacked. And Caravan didn't repudiate the story. Caravan didn't say, oh, we're sorry for having published it. In this business, if you're putting out ideas, you're putting out books, you're publishing articles and books, you have to stand by. There has to be integrity to the work that you do. You can't cave in this manner. And to do so, as I said, is also bad business because what's the signal you're sending to every crackpot in this country? That you can claim to have taken, something has offended you.
I want to bring
you go to court and demand books be banned left,
over
right,
here
as
sort of in a way a representative of all publishers today, particularly because we can't speak to Penguin directly. If publishers don't defend their own books, who will?
Well, I agree, but here, Penguin is a very, proven and a very good publishing house. The fact that they took on Siddharth's book or this particular book, I think it was brave enough, and if they actually pursued with it, I think there's nothing wrong with the publishing house as such. They have given some of the best publishing personnel to the industry.
But legal case for 4 years, then why give it up?
But the system lies with the law, the legal system here. It's so tardy that I have, in my 30 years of publishing, I have faced cases where they have gone on for 12 years, and at the end of it, we sometimes realize, at least 5 cases, that realize that was it really worth it. And but having said that, I do not think it's a good idea for any publisher to actually pulp the book or ban a book.
Okay.
In this case,
Fair
it was
point.
not a ban.
That's something that has really truly shocked people.
Yes, it has. But it is the legal system. It's so tardy that I think we need to have some sort of a tribunal or something to give an immediate relief rather than going on for 12 years.
The process is often the punishment. This is true for, you have the law of criminal defamation, you have 295A, which is often misused or abused. So I think the eminent historians, I think there's a point in that petition that issue needs to be pressed, but that can't be an alibi for Penguin to claim that it had no option other than to capitulate.
Well, if I may step in here, we don't know what the compulsions were. Perhaps Penguin India had much little to say in this. Perhaps it is a MNC and the decision came from the headquarters or whatever it happened. They have to take the brunt.
Perhaps they realized the book is bad.
And well, Rahul Ishwaran, I'm going to come to you in a moment, but since you bring that up, Penguin Random House really is the biggest publishing conglomerate in the world. A legal case, in a sense, even a long-running one, was not going to have terribly big financial implications for them.
Well, if if you're asking me, if I believed in a book, I've fought 5 cases for 12 years, I would perhaps do another 5,